my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today is my 10,000 subscribers special on my story. So first I want to start off by saying thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel. It's been such an awesome journey so far. It's been about 2 months and I went from 0 to here. And it's seriously amazing how I got to this point because I didn't even want to do a YouTube channel. But it was just a perfect manifestation and somehow it found me. So as I said before, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. And the reason is because I see a lot of comments that talk about how this just comes natural to me and how I'm just good at this. And a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of my clients, they think the same thing. But that really cannot be further from the truth. And I was born in New Jersey, and I honestly, my life was kind of like a mixed bag of emotions, and I was not the happiest kid, and through my life, I, had a lot of affliction, and bad things happen, and, but a lot of good things as well. But I had basically a normal childhood. I went to Catholic school for the first few years of my life. Nothing crazy, never read the Bible, I believed in God just because of what I was told, but, nothing special there. As I grew older, I always felt like I was different, or that I didn't quite fit in, or that there was something wrong, and I was really self-centered, just out of fear, right? Like self-centered fear, worrying about what other people think about me, worrying about what's going to happen. My home life wasn't the best, and so I just basically grew up maladapted to life. And I always felt extremely powerless. But yet at the same time, I felt that life was meant for more than what I was experiencing. Or that, there was things in this world that I could be experiencing that I wasn't. And but as I grew older, there was problems in my household, and my family got divorced. My parents got divorced, and I was horribly depressed. Like depression, I suffered from when I was 12 years old up until years and years later. And during this time, I remember when I was young, I was in the car, I was like a kid, like maybe 5 or 6 years old or something, and I was in the back seat, and the first weird experience that I had was, I was just sitting and thinking as a kid would do, and I thought a few words, and a few seconds later, the exact words were played back on the radio. And it was enough, it was like shocking enough that I never forgot it. I had not experienced anything for years and years after, but I never forgot that moment. And another time was when I was 16 years old. I was in high school. I lived in Pennsylvania for a little while before the parents' divorce, and I got caught cheating on a test, right? Because that's what I did. I cheated. I basically failed out in school, and I got caught. And the teacher brought me outside, in the hallway to talk to me. And when he was talking to me, a very strange image popped into my head, something that I would never have thought. And then a second later, the teacher had said the exact image that was given to me. It was so strange, again, that I never forgot it, because it was some type of weird psychic experience. But like I said, nevertheless, I had no control over this. It was just one of those random experiences that some of us have had that we never forgot. That was the point after that, where my life kind of spiraled downward. I got, like I said, I was terribly depressed. I think, I fell in love, and then I started basically using drugs and alcohol to escape my life, and that was a cycle that lasted for a very long time. I was completely out of touch with any spirituality whatsoever, and in fact, I never really had any. I was extremely self-centered, and my life was just miserable, and I basically didn't want to live. And by the time I was 21 years old, I was like full on addicted to drugs. I was going to rehab all the time. I remember the first time though that I went into rehab, they told me that I needed to find a God, and they told me that I needed to go to AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember getting out, and an old friend from high school randomly reached out to me, and he was involved in like a church. And but it was like this small sect of Christianity, and like I said, I knew nothing about it. I was just completely self-centered, but I knew like I wanted to get better, because it was like I was addicted for for a couple of years, like 2 years straight, every single day. I did not draw a sober breath, and so I figured, okay, I'll just listen to these people. And so I ended up studying the Bible. That's where I started learning the Hebrew, Greek, and he told me that miracles were possible. He said that now they're possible. It didn't just stop in the era of, when the Bible was written, which is what I was taught and what I thought. And so anyway, for some weird reason, I just chose to believe him. I guess probably because I had nothing else going for me, and that I needed something that was going to help me. So I remember first getting into it, I started getting this weird thought in the back of my mind, like a gnawing thought, like an intuitive thought that said that something big was going to happen in the middle of the night. And for like 3 days straight, I had this thought replaying in my mind over and over. And finally, one evening, it was probably 3 o'clock in the morning, I was 22 years old at this time. I woke up in the middle of the night, just as I had, like, this thought told me, and I said to myself in my mind, in the name of Jesus Christ. And as soon as I don't know why I was prompted to say that, by the way. It was just because I was in this church. I just started. It was a few weeks in. And just as I finished the T in Christ, there was an explosion, boom, inside my, in the front of my brain, right? Like thunder, boom, right here. And it was like pulsating, like burning, like electricity. And my whole brain was like vibrating, right? And it was the instant I finished the T, like Christ, boom. And that was my first miracle. That was my first miracle, and I had no idea what it was when it happened. And it took me years to figure out what it was, which I would later find out that it was the promise. What Neville Goddard talks about was the promise, which is the revealing that there's that spirit inside of you. Like your imagination is the creator of this world, right? So anyway, but that was not the moment that everything turned around, right? I was still, I relapsed after that, and I had been in and out of rehabs. I went to about 20 of them. Like, I was completely hopeless, in despair, miserable. I had seen a couple manifestations here and there. I remember one time I forgot I was in college at the time. I forgot to do my homework. And so I remember sitting there and praying that my class would be canceled, right? And I remember walking up, and it said last minute notice the class was canceled. And I was like, what? Like, but at this time I still thought that these were all coincidences. Now, I did know for a fact that there was some creative power inside of me, and I just named it Jesus at the time because that's what I thought what happened or whatever. But nevertheless, my miracles, as what I called them at the time, were sporadic. However, in reading the Bible, I was reading the Bible consistently because of that thing that happened. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it talks about the manifestations of the Spirit, which talks about miracles, healing, prophecy, and a number of other things. And so I believed this. I believed that I could do this because sometimes I would get answers to my prayers and I would receive things like this. I had, but it was, the interesting thing is that it was when I started in spirituality is when that thing happened, right? And it was exactly with the name of Jesus Christ, which was weird to me. So anyway, years go by. Nothing changed too much. But since I had received that experience, I was obsessively researching on how to like systemize this. I figured if this worked, it had to work, right? Like I had to figure out a way to make it work. And I remember when I was, I think I was 19 years old. So this is rewind a little bit back. I had stolen a book from Barnes and Noble, and one of the topics in there was autosuggestion, which is like talking to yourself, or like what, you know, some people say affirmations, some people say inner conversations. That's what Neville Goddard talks about. And I knew that this stuff, like there was something drawing me to this stuff. And so I never forgot that. But I remember after I had received these miracles, I was on a quest to figure out, like I said, how to systemize this stuff. So I read everything that I possibly could. Now, keep in mind, during this time, I was unable to hold a job. I was, I would get one, and then I would relapse, and I would go to rehab, and then I would get out, and then I would get arrested, and then I would do the same thing over and for years and years and years. I was completely powerless entirely over my life. But the thing was that I knew that there was this power in me, and I knew that miracles were real. So my quest was obsessively, to save my own life, was to figure out how this worked. So that's what I did, right? Hundreds of books, hundreds of lectures, practicing obsessively all the time, starting to get better, seeing miracles happen slowly but surely over the course of years and years. And I started to connect the dots and realize that, at a certain point, my little brother had passed away. That was when I was 22 years old, and I basically said, this whole God stuff is nonsense. Even though that event had happened to me, I said this God stuff is nonsense. It's a joke. And so I just was into, like Abraham Hicks and Pam Grout and Napoleon Hill and Joseph Murphy and, everyone else that you can possibly imagine. Obsessively reading, testing, and finding more and more that my results were coming to pass. I was seeing more and more, but I hadn't really gotten it down to a science. Well, anyway, a few years ago, I had found Neville Goddard, right? He found me, more or less. Like, he appeared out of thin air. I had been searching obsessively for the subconscious mind for years, but nevertheless, I had never found anything on him. Well, anyway, one day I do. I found Feeling is the Secret. And then I knew that was the truth, because it made perfect sense, right? All those things that all those other teachers had told me, like, it kind of put them together but corrected them in the right manner, right? And some of the things I was doing wrong, which was like imagining in third person, yet not thinking from my desires, not only imagining the end, things like that. But anyway, once I found him, that was when I had another big mystical experience, which I'll get into in another video, actually, because there's not too much time left. But I had found the truth, so I thought. And it actually brought it back to the Bible, and I'd realized that the Bible that I had been reading, the way I'd been reading it in, was completely wrong. And yeah, so that's what I did, and then my miracles started happening. More and more manifestations, to the point where I just grew stronger in it. And, mind you, I'd been obsessively trying to figure this out for years just to save my own life. And, eventually I stumbled upon a teaching by his, and it talks about the promise, right? Which is when the spirit inside of you reveals itself to you and proof to that this thing does live inside of you, that the power is within you. And it all just made sense. It all connected perfectly. And so from then on, it's like manifestation after manifestation. Now I get, 30, 40 manifestations every single day. I'm teaching it to you guys. My life has been completely changed, right? And one thing I want to point out is during this whole 7 or so years that I had been obsessively studying this stuff and trying to find the answers, I had no one at all to talk to about this at all, right? I would talk to certain people, they would shut me down. Talk to certain people, they would shut me down. But I had that experience, right? That's what kept me going. That's what kept me going. And so I just kept on going. But I also was imagining that I would have people to talk to about this. That was my core thing throughout the entire time I was studying this, because I knew that it was real. I knew that it was working. I was seeing results everywhere, and I was like, how do people not know of this power, right? So anyway, I was able to use my power enough to get me out of that lifestyle and have like an abundant life, right? Like all my dreams have come true, essentially. I have now a massive group of people, over 10,000, right? Plus my Facebook group, which has like 4,500 people, and all my friends in real life, they're all manifesting now, talking about manifesting, right? They're all manifesting. So the point is that coming from a place where I had nothing and I was miserable, I was going to die, all my friends, most of them didn't make it because they were in the same lifestyle as me. Literally, most of them are not here anymore. So the power of imagination can take you out of the grip of anything, right? Like I said, my friend's not here anymore. Why am I here? And it's because I've used the power of my imagination. I know I've manifested myself out of that state into a different state. I use this power on everyone else. My life gets grander and grander, and I try to just help everyone to tell you, like, you literally can get out of depression, addiction, terrible life conditions, and put yourself into any place that you can simply imagine. And the only thing you need to do is define what you want, create a mental picture of it, feel what it would feel like if you were now that person, and then drop it, right? And then watch how the world turns, right? Like I said, I've had so many thousands of manifestations unfold, I can't really even count them anymore. I try to do the best that I can. But what you will find, and I promised you this, is that your imagination creates reality. Your subconscious mind is the thing which replicates into existence anything impressed upon it, and you can imagine anything that you want because all things exist now. You're not magnetizing things towards you. You're simply selecting a state inside of your imagination that already exists in this physical world, and by feeling it, a bridge of incidents unfolds and brings you to the end. And that's just how it works. And that was what I searched so long to figure out. Like I said, after I found Neville, everything changed. I've manifesting epically, tremendous mystical experiences unfold. All things that in the beginning I thought were nonsense, and I had no power whatsoever to do this. But it was only through practice and persistence and that obsessive yearning for this, right? To come from the state where I was to this state. It was through sheer will and knowing, and luckily the event that happened to me that kept me in the game, that's why I persisted. So anyway, I just want to thank those of you who have helped me out, like Lila, Veronica, Vonda, and everyone else who's helped me to get from there to here, and many more subscribers. And I want to say that I am doing a giveaway. So it's going to be a half-hour coaching session, and the drawing will take place in 1 week from now. And the criteria is this: you have to like, subscribe, and create a statement, right? A statement which would imply that you are now the person that you want to be. Hashtag I am, and then the statement after. I am wealthy, I am free, I am happy, I am peaceful. Whatever it is that you want, construct a statement and write it in the comments below with the hashtag I am. And in 1 week from today, I will pick a winner. And so then you'll get a free session with me. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this, scroll down, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.